In a world that never stops talking, solitude is seen as a curse. But what if silence isn't your enemy? It's your most significant advantage. You've been taught that constant connection means success. Yet history's wisest, strongest, and most self-aware individuals all share one habit. They embrace solitude. This video is your invitation to rediscover a long-lost power hidden in silence. We're not talking about isolation or loneliness. We're diving into purposeful solitude, the kind that transforms your mind, sharpens your purpose, and awakens your potential. Here are 10 unexpected benefits of solitude in modern life. Number 1, solitude sharpens your mental clarity and focus. In a world addicted to noise, clarity has become a luxury. Notifications, opinions, ads, and expectations constantly bombard us. The mind becomes foggy, scattered, and exhausted. You try to think, but your thoughts feel hijacked. That's because your mind is no longer your own. It's being rented out to the chaos of modern life. But solitude, intentional, powerful solitude, is the antidote. When you remove yourself from the noise, you give your brain space to breathe. You're no longer reacting. You're no longer absorbing everyone else's agenda. You finally begin to hear something you've forgotten, the sound of your thoughts. And within those thoughts lies truth. Solitude is like wiping the smudged glass of your inner lens. Suddenly, everything becomes clearer. Your values come into focus. Your goals regain their edge. You begin to really see what matters and what doesn't. That's clarity. And clarity is power. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruled over millions, but wrote his most profound reflections alone, in silence, away from the clamor of the court. Why? Because he understood this. A quiet mind is a strong mind. When you're alone, there's no one else to impress, no image to maintain, no distractions demanding your attention. Your mind begins to sort itself out naturally, like still water settling after a storm. The more profound thoughts, the meaningful questions, the buried wisdom, they rise to the surface. You gain access to a deeper intelligence, one that's drowned out by constant interaction. This is where focus is born. When you embrace solitude, your focus sharpens like a blade. You're no longer flipping between tasks or trying to multitask your way through the day. You can lock in on what matters, with intensity, with purpose, with stamina. You stop chasing dopamine. You start chasing depth. And let's be clear, this isn't about becoming a monk or hiding from life. This is about reclaiming your ability to think independently, act intentionally, and move powerfully toward your mission without the world pulling you in 50 directions. Want to level up your productivity? Start with solitude. Want to gain an edge in your career, your craft, your life? Start with solitude, because clarity fuels action, and focused action builds momentum. Most people spend their lives reacting, but those who master solitude, they respond with precision. They think, then they strike. So take the time, turn off the world, close the door, and listen, not to the noise, but to the silence behind it, because in that silence, something amazing happens. Your mind wakes up, your vision sharpens, your mission becomes clear. Solitude doesn't weaken you, it refines you, it sharpens your edge. And in this world of endless noise, your clarity will make you unstoppable. Number 2, stronger decision-making, the power of choosing without noise. In the chaos of modern life, most people don't make decisions. They absorb them. They're bombarded by the expectations of family, the influence of social media, the pressure of trends, and the fear of judgment. And so, their lives become a patchwork of other people's choices, their job, their relationships, even their identity. But solitude, real intentional solitude, is the antidote to this madness. When you step away from the noise, something powerful happens. Your voice gets louder, your intuition sharpens, your mind begins to clear like a muddy river settling into stillness. And in that stillness, you rediscover something priceless, the ability to think for yourself. Significant decisions aren't made when you're surrounded by chaos. They're made when you're alone with your thoughts, your values, and your truth. Because in solitude, there's no audience to please. There's no applause to chase. It's just you and the hard questions. Who do I want to be? What matters to me? Am I living by design or by default? Most people are terrified of these questions, so they bury them in distraction. But the strong face them head on, and in doing so, they claim their power. Solitude is your decision-making dojo. It's where you develop the mental muscle to choose with clarity and conviction. Without outside opinions clouding your vision, your choices start to reflect something more profound than convenience or fear. They begin to reflect integrity. When you make decisions from a place of solitude, they come from strength, not weakness. You stop asking, "What will they think?" and start asking, "What do I believe?" You stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose. This is where leaders are born. It's where boundaries are drawn, toxic cycles are broken, and new chapters begin. Because once you learn to stand alone with your truth, you become immovable. You become dangerous, not in a reckless way, but in a grounded, unshakable way. The kind of person who doesn't flinch when it's time to choose. Think about it. How many lives have been wasted because people made the easy decision, not the right one? Solitude gives you the strength to choose the right path, even if it's the harder one, even if it's lonelier, because deep down, you know that anything built on honesty, on self-trust, lasts. So next time you're faced with a big decision, don't run to 10 different people for opinions. Don't scroll through endless advice online. Step away. Get quiet. Be still. Listen to the voice within you that's been drowned out for too long. Because the strongest decisions you'll ever make, they are the ones you make when no one else is watching. Number 3, solitude sparks creative breakthroughs. In the silence of solitude, something incredible begins to stir. Your imagination awakens, not just as a passive dreamer, but as a visionary and innovator, a creator of new worlds, new thoughts, new realities. Let's be real. Modern life is loud. Social media, instant messages, crowded timelines, non-stop noise. Your mind is constantly reacting, rarely reflecting, and seldom creating. And that's the tragedy, because the loudness of the world is drowning the brilliance of your inner voice. But when you step into solitude, when you remove yourself from the chatter and turn inward, something radical happens. Your brain switches from reactive to reflective. This is where creative breakthroughs live. You see, creativity isn't about trying harder. It's about hearing what's already inside you. And you can't listen to it if the volume of the outside world is always maxed out. Solitude lowers the volume so your genius can speak. History is full of proof. Albert Einstein didn't stumble on the theory of relativity in a group chat. He found it in silence, alone, walking by a lake. Nikola Tesla said his most excellent ideas came to him in moments of solitude, not during discussions. Even the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they all wrote their most profound wisdom not while surrounded by crowds, but during their quiet, isolated moments. Why? Because solitude is not emptiness. It's a canvas, a wide open space where you can paint freely, dream boldly, and create without judgment or interruption. It's where ideas have room to breathe. Think about the last time you had a genuinely original idea. Did it come while scrolling? Or did it strike while you were in the shower, on a walk, in bed before sleep, alone with your thoughts? Here's the truth. If you want to create something great, you must be willing to separate. You must be willing to leave the crowd, not forever, but long enough to hear what they can't hear, to see what they're too distracted to notice. Solitude is the workshop of the mind. It's the fire in which innovation is forged. It allows you to dive into deep thought without the pressure to perform. It gives you the power to explore your curiosity, build new mental connections, and chase down the wild ideas that could change everything. So if you're stuck, blocked, or uninspired, don't run to more noise. Run to silence. Take a walk without your phone. Sit quietly for an hour. Journal, think, disconnect, and watch what rises. Because the next chapter of your life, the next invention, the following strategy, the next vision, it's waiting, not in the noise, but in the stillness. Number 4, solitude builds unshakable emotional resilience. In the silence of solitude, something powerful happens. You finally stop running. You stop running from your thoughts, your pain, your past. The emotions you've buried under distractions, obligations, and constant noise begin to rise to the surface, not to haunt you, but to heal you. Most people avoid being alone because they're afraid of what they might feel, the sadness they haven't processed, the anger they've ignored, the insecurities they've masked with validation from others. But here's the truth. You cannot become emotionally intense by avoiding emotions. You become strong by facing them head-on, and solitude gives you the arena to do just that. It is in solitude that you meet your most authentic self, the version of you that isn't filtered for anyone else. No masks, no roles, no pressure to perform. And that's where the work begins. That's where resilience is forged. Think of emotional resilience like a muscle. Every time you sit with your discomfort instead of escaping it, you're lifting emotional weight. Every time you feel your anxiety and breathe through it instead of reacting to it, you're growing stronger. Every time you reflect on your past and choose to let go instead of letting it define you, you're breaking mental chains and building inner power. Solitude doesn't make you fragile. It makes you fortified. Because once you've faced your mind, your doubts, your shadows, your stories, you stop being shaken by the world outside of you. When others panic, you stay calm. When life gets chaotic, you remain centered. You stop looking for external fixes to internal struggles. And here's the beauty of it. The more time you spend in solitude, the more emotionally intelligent you become. You start recognizing your triggers. You begin to understand your reactions. You gain the ability to respond instead of react. That's the mark of someone who has matured through solitude. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his soul." They weren't advocating loneliness. They were preaching mastery, and mastery begins within. So the next time life feels heavy, instead of drowning in distractions, Choose to step back, not to run away, but to reset. Create a sacred space to feel what you've been avoiding. Let it wash over you. Let it teach you. Then rise stronger, clearer, and calmer, because when you learn to master your inner storms, no external storm can break you. That's the gift of solitude. That's the path to unshakable emotional resilience. And that's the strength that no one can take from you. Number 5, solitude is the mirror that reveals who you truly are. In the chaos of everyday life, it's easy to lose sight of who you are. We spend so much time reacting, scrolling through feeds, answering messages, attending to others' needs, that we rarely pause to ask, what do I feel? What do I truly want? Who am I becoming? That's why solitude isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It is the sacred space where masks fall off, performances stop, and you meet the raw, unfiltered version of yourself. When you're alone, there's no audience to impress, no one to entertain, just you and the thoughts you've been avoiding. And this is where the magic happens. In solitude, self-awareness begins to take root. You start to notice patterns, why you react with anger in certain situations, why you chase validation from the wrong people, why you say yes when your soul is screaming no. You begin to realize how much of your life has been shaped by external influence, by expectations, trends, or fear of judgment. But in the quiet, that outside noise dies down, and what remains is your truth, not someone else's version of you. You start asking more profound questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? What makes me feel most alive? What drains me? What kind of person do I want to become? These aren't questions you can answer in the middle of a crowd. They demand stillness. They demand solitude. And when you face these questions head on, you reclaim power over your identity. You stop living reactively. You begin to live intentionally. You stop comparing your journey to everyone else's highlight reel. You begin to define success on your terms. You stop needing others to tell you who you are because you already know. Here's the truth. Most people are strangers to themselves. They know more about celebrities than they do about their own core beliefs. They are constantly busy, but never truly in touch with their inner world. Don't be one of them. Make solitude a ritual, not a rare retreat. Take walks alone. Sit in silence. Journal. Meditate. Disconnect from the world so you can reconnect with yourself. Because when you truly know yourself, your triggers, your dreams, your fears, your boundaries, you become unshakable. You stop drifting through life. You start directing it. Solitude gives you clarity. Clarity gives you confidence. And confidence, that gives you the power to change everything. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't rush to fill the silence. Lean into it. Because of that silence, that's not emptiness. It's the echo of your soul calling you back home. Number 6, greater productivity and discipline. Solitude is where winners are built. In a world full of distractions, notifications, deadlines, conversations, and the constant hum of social pressure, most people are busy, but very few are genuinely productive. And here's the hard truth. You cannot master your craft, your mind, or your life if you are constantly surrounded by noise. Solitude is where real work happens. It's in the quiet hours, away from the chaos, that your mind aligns, your focus sharpens, and your will to act becomes unshakable. While others are checking their phones for the 100th time, you're building something real, something powerful, something lasting. Solitude doesn't just boost productivity, it trains discipline like nothing else can. Because when you're alone, there's no one to impress, no applause to chase, no pressure to perform. It's just you, your purpose, and the path you must walk. And that's where discipline is forged, not in the heat of external motivation, but in the cold, quiet moments where no one is watching. And you show up anyway. You see, the world teaches us to be reactive, to respond instantly, to multitask, to always be on. But high achievers, world-class creators, and Stoic leaders throughout history have known a more profound truth. Greatness is not loud. It is methodical, it is focused, it is earned in silence. When you commit to solitude, even just for an hour a day, something begins to shift inside you. Your mind clears, your goals become real again, your excuses shrink, and suddenly your actions start to align with your highest values, not your fleeting moods. You stop chasing distractions and start designing your future. You begin each day with intention, not impulse. You start finishing what you start. You start respecting your own time. And that is a superpower because, let's be honest, everyone says they want success. But only a few are willing to step back from the noise long enough to build it. So if you want to separate yourself from the average, don't just hustle harder. Carve out solitude. Use that silence like a blade. Cut through the noise. Cut through the doubt. Cut through the old version of yourself that kept making excuses. Solitude is not a retreat from action. It's the launch pad for powerful, focused, relentless action. If you want more discipline, more momentum, more results, don't wait for the perfect environment. Create it. Turn off the world, sit with your purpose, and go to work. Because success doesn't come to those who stay busy. It comes to those who stay focused. Number 7, authentic connection with others. Solitude makes you better at being with people. Here's the paradox most people miss. The more time you spend alone, the more powerfully you connect with others. In a world obsessed with networking, likes, and constant communication, solitude may seem counterintuitive. But solitude is the sharpening ground for emotional intelligence. When you step away from the noise, you finally learn how to listen. Listen, not just to others, but to yourself. Why does that matter? Because most people are too distracted to be present. They scroll while you speak. They react, but they don't understand. They're too wrapped up in their performance to notice yours. But when you've trained yourself in solitude, you show up differently. You're more grounded, more intentional, more real. You don't cling to people out of fear. You don't perform to earn their love. You bring your whole self to the moment, and that's magnetic. Solitude teaches you to stop depending on people for validation. When you sit in silence long enough, you begin to recognize your worth without applause. You learn that your value isn't measured by how many people surround you, but by how well you can stand alone. And the moment you no longer need connection, you become capable of something far more powerful, authentic connection. Not forced, not desperate, not transactional, but honest, soulful, intentional. You stop being the person who says yes to avoid being left out. Instead, you become the one who says yes because you mean it, and no because you respect your energy. Your time becomes sacred. Your words become deliberate. You speak to empower, not to impress. Think of the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. They weren't hermits. They weren't emotionally distant. They were deeply engaged in life. But their strength came from solitude, from clarity, from knowing themselves so well that they never had to prove a thing. Solitude trains you to become a better listener, not just to respond, but to understand. It removes the ego from your conversations. It teaches you to see people for who they are, not what they can give you. And when you walk into a room carrying the peace that only solitude can give, people feel it. They don't know why, but they're drawn to you. That's presence. That's power. That's the kind of connection most never experience because they never slowed down long enough to build it within themselves. So, if you want deeper relationships, don't start by chasing others. Start by sitting with yourself. Build your inner foundation. And when you step back into the world, you'll no longer need to beg for connection. You'll attract it naturally, effortlessly, and with unwavering confidence. Solitude doesn't make you lonely. It makes you whole. And wholeness is what the world is starving for. Number 8. Solitude teaches you to set boundaries and build unshakable self-respect. In solitude, you meet the person who matters most, yourself. And in that sacred meeting, something extraordinary happens. You begin to realize just how often you've compromised your values, your energy, and your peace for the comfort or approval of others. Solitude exposes it all. It shines a light on the moments you said yes when you wanted to scream no, the friendships that drained you, the expectations that suffocated you, the countless times you betrayed your own needs to be liked, accepted, or validated. And in that silence, a fire starts to build, a fire called self-respect. You see, when others constantly surround you, your identity gets diluted. You absorb opinions. You mirror emotions. You react. You adjust. You conform. But when you withdraw, even for a short while, you reclaim your original blueprint. You start drawing lines in the sand, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, out of strength. Solitude teaches you that it's not selfish to protect your energy. It's essential. It's not rude to say no. It's powerful, and it's not arrogant to prioritize yourself. It's survival. People who fear solitude are often the ones who fear disappointing others. But those who embrace solitude, they start realizing that disappointing others is sometimes the price of not disappointing yourself. Let that sink in. Because once you begin to honor your inner voice, you no longer tolerate environments that dishonor your worth. You don't chase people. You don't beg to be understood. You don't explain your boundaries. You enforce them with grace, with dignity, and with unshakable calm. And what happens next is nothing short of transformational. You stop seeking permission to be who you are. You walk into rooms with silent confidence. You engage in relationships from a place of wholeness, not need. People notice the difference. They feel your presence. Your time alone has taught you something the world never will. You are enough as you are. Solitude doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It doesn't make you distant. It makes you discerning. And that discernment becomes the sword that cuts through toxicity, mediocrity, and manipulation. So if you want to build absolute confidence, stop asking the world who you are. Go to a quiet place, spend time with yourself, and start listening. Your soul already knows. From that stillness will rise a new version of you, one who's not afraid to protect their peace, set firm boundaries, and live boldly on their terms. That's not weakness. That's not ego. That's power. And it all begins with solitude. Number 9, reconnection with purpose, the calling that only silence can reveal. In the endless noise of modern life, notifications buzzing, emails stacking up, opinions flying at you from every direction, something vital gets drowned out: your purpose. We weren't meant to live on autopilot, ticking boxes and chasing things just because the world says we should. Deep down, you know there's something more. Something is calling you, a reason you're here. But here's the hard truth: you'll never hear it until you shut the world out. That's where solitude becomes sacred. When you step away from the chaos, even for a little while, you start hearing a different kind of voice. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of expectation, not the voice of what others want from you. You begin to hear the voice of your soul, the voice that whispers, "This is who you are. This is why you're here." Solitude is not emptiness, it's revelation. It's the space where your mind clears, your heart speaks, and your direction sharpens. Think of it like this: a compass can't point north if it's constantly being shaken. But once you let it settle, once everything stills, your proper direction becomes unmistakable. In solitude, the fog lifts. You start to realize that the job you thought you wanted isn't aligned with your spirit, that the relationship you've clung to is draining your energy, that the goals you've chased weren't yours to begin with. They were borrowed dreams. And in that moment of clarity, you're no longer driven by pressure, you're pulled by purpose. The ancient Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "People try to get away from it all, to the country, to the beach, to the mountains. You always wish you could too, but you can get away from it anytime you like by going within." Going within is the most powerful journey you'll ever take. It's the place where confusion turns into conviction and restlessness transforms into direction. So if you're feeling lost, don't seek more information. Don't ask the world to tell you who to be. Turn inward. Get still. Get silent. Reconnect. Because purpose isn't something you manufacture, it's something you remember. And you remember it when you're finally alone with yourself. Let the world spin. Let it rush and roar. You, on the other hand, walk into the stillness, not to escape life, but to find the life that's been waiting for you all along. Solitude isn't the absence of life. It's the starting point of a life with meaning. Number 10, solitude awakens spiritual and philosophical growth. In the silence of solitude, you don't just hear yourself, you begin to listen to the universe. You start to sense the subtle undercurrents of life that are drowned out by the constant chatter of modern existence. And it is in that quiet stillness where actual spiritual and philosophical growth takes root. Think about it. Every great philosopher, sage, and spiritual leader in history has sought solitude, not as a form of escape, but as a gateway to enlightenment. Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations in Moments of Quiet Reflection. Buddha found enlightenment beneath a tree in silence. Jesus withdrew to the desert. The prophet Muhammad found revelation in a cave. What do they all have in common? Solitude was the catalyst for inner transformation. In solitude, you're not trying to win arguments or impress anyone. You're not distracted by external noise. You begin to ask the questions that truly matter. Who am I? What do I stand for? Why am I here? What does it all mean? Modern life rarely gives you a moment to pause. We are addicted to speed, scrolling, swiping, and reacting. But wisdom isn't found in the scroll. It's found in the stillness. Solitude creates space to reflect deeply on your values, your beliefs, your relationship with the divine, or simply your place in the grand design of the universe. And don't mistake this for some vague or mystical idea. Spiritual and philosophical growth gives you something practical and powerful: perspective. It teaches you how to zoom out, how to rise above the petty, how to endure suffering with grace, and how to face death without fear. That's not weakness. That's power. That's courage. That's peace. In solitude, you come face to face with mortality, and instead of fearing it, you begin to respect it. You start to see life not as something to be consumed or chased, but something to be honored. You begin to live intentionally, to walk with purpose, to speak with meaning. You also develop something society desperately lacks: inner stillness. You become the calm in the storm. While others are tossed around by chaos, you remain grounded, not because the world is quiet, but because you are. And that kind of inner stillness is magnetic. People feel it, they trust it, they follow it. So if you've been running from solitude, ask yourself this: what more profound truths are you afraid of discovering? Because what you find in silence may not just transform your life, it may save it. Make time for stillness. Carve out moments for solitude. Let it become your sanctuary, your training ground, your temple. Because when you embrace it, you won't just grow, you'll awaken. Conclusion: step into the power of solitude. In a world that glorifies noise, speed, and constant connection, choosing solitude is a revolutionary act. It's not weakness, it's not loneliness, it's power. Because when you sit in silence, you begin to hear the truth. When you walk alone, you walk toward strength. And when you detach from the world, you reconnect with your essence, your thoughts, your dreams, your values, your mission. Solitude doesn't strip you of life. It amplifies it. It sharpens your mind. It strengthens your heart. It deepens your purpose. The most unstoppable people on earth didn't find clarity in the crowd. They found it in the quiet. So if you feel the pressure of modern life weighing down on you, if you're tired of endless scrolling, comparison, and noise, then step back, step into solitude, and step into your power. Let the silence refine you. Let it guide you. Let it forge you into someone the world can't ignore. And if this message stirred something inside you, if you're ready to think deeper, grow stronger, and live more intentionally, subscribe to this channel right now. Because here, we don't chase trends. We chase truth. We don't drown in noise. We rise through discipline. We don't follow the crowd. We follow our inner calling. Hit that subscribe button. Join a movement of thinkers, seekers, and warriors of the mind. This is your reminder. You don't need the world's approval to live a powerful life. You need the courage to stand alone and the wisdom to know that solitude is where strength begins. This is your time. Own it.